Alright, let's end this game. Final Fantasy III Pixel Remaster is now coming to its closing chapter. In our final battle against the Cloud of Darkness, this will be probably one of the more intense experiences. We might actually game over, which I'm hoping we don't, because that's gonna suck. But anyway, last time I did this, I was like a pure ninja party, and I was just throwing shurikens. But now I'm just gonna keep the same people that I've had the entire game, at least to the point I got them, and we are just gonna, do this the old-fashioned way. So we're geared up. This is the time now where your elixirs are gonna come in handy. This is definitely a time where you don't be stingy with it. Like, if there is an opportunity to use an elixir, use them now. Because the mage is probably not going to be enough to heal all the damage every single time. And you only have 3 party members that are going to be basically doing damage. And then if you got that final ribbon chest as well from the other place, then you would have popped the chest trophy. Boom, boom, boom. And I really like the final boss music here. They really ramped it up. But like, we're pretty much gonna keep it on the screen the entire time. So this fight though is really dumbed down because that's all this thing is gonna do is the particle beam. Whereas in other versions of the game, the Cloud of Darkness literally uses like a whole bunch of status effects and shit like that to kind of fight you. I don't know why they opted for this thing just to use one power move, because as you can see, like if it gets 3 off, you're basically dead. So if you're within the level range that I'm at, because if it gets 2 turns off, then you'll be safe. As long as you have like the HP that I got. It's just, I don't know. Just the one move though, you're the final being of the game and you're going to use that one move the entire time. Kind of shitty, in my opinion. Okay, now we're going to just do a physical attack. I got you. Now, Particle Beam is nasty, though. Very nasty attack. I don't know how many more points I got for pure Ultimate Player. I'll take a quick look here. You don't want to just blindly do this the entire time because you see how like I have 4 moves left and then 3. Sometimes they don't count, so. See if it gets another particle beam off. Nope. We win. Yeah, so imagine doing that fight at like about level 50-ish is where you should be at when you come in here. It's literally, if it gets 2 particle beams off and it's really RNG at that point, you could probably just get wiped. So you're hoping that your Devout heals in between both of them, and that the Cloud of Darkness doesn't get 2 turns off. Other than that, switch to a ninja and just start throwing shurikens and you'll do 9999 damage each time. That's it. In the beginning there was the void, then came light and darkness. From them everything was born. The heavens, skies, water, fire, life. Time inexorably brings all back to its beginnings. But from life something new was born. A shining force that separated the light from the dark and illuminated the world. It was called hope. When the balance between light and dark is broken, and the world again slides toward oblivion, the chosen will appear once more. Do not forget that the source of the warrior's power is the hope that lives inside us all. So all these really cheesy notes, man. But you know, like back then, they made these for like children, right? Like the adults of that era also kind of had it in them too to love these games. Dreams, despair, love, time can obscure it all. Do not accept this. Do not forget it. The time will never erase what life has to offer. Find your last remaining spark of light, a light that shines brightly when all else is dark. The light of hope. Yep. So crystals, hope, warriors of light, all that kind of stuff. It's all, you know, they just reverted it back but created a job class for this game. And we'll do a little deep thought video on this one before we move on to the better Final Fantasies, in my opinion, from here on out. These scenes play out so good in the 3D remake because of all the voice acting that you get in that one. Oh my god, I wish I could play the 3D remake on video for it. I mean, I could on Steam, but you know, I'm opting to do these because they're just available on PlayStation. It's quicker for me. All right, so how do I put this? In my overall opinion, I believe that the worst three Final Fantasy games have been completed at this point. Now, I understand that they are what basically started this franchise, and I've talked really highly about each game and made a lot of good points about the way that they are viewed, right, and are unviewed for the most part. You know, like with Final Fantasy II, we had the Dragoon and the Wyvern reunite scene, which is pretty much iconic because everybody loves a Dragoon, right? Just what they look like, what they are. When we get into the next game, we actually are going to meet the most popular Dragoon that exists in the entire franchise for most fans. And, you know, but without two, we wouldn't have been introduced to what Dragoons even look like at all. So there's a lot of standing things about these games that kind of set the course for the rest of its future. With Final Fantasy 1, you know, we had class changes with Bahamut being introduced in the game. And I think Bahamut is probably the oldest summon that exists in every Final Fantasy game up to this point, that I at least remember. In some form or capacity, Bahamut has always been associated with every single Final Fantasy game. Now, let me see. With the way that each game went too, like, I love and appreciate that they were kind of diversifying what they were trying to do with these games and not just creating the same thing over and over again. Like with one, it was your standard turn-by-turn system. The older versions of these games are very difficult to play because, one, they don't hold up that well anymore, and the way that the system went, I mean, for one, you couldn't have a certain amount of items in your inventory like we do today because the overall game couldn't handle that. You had to use like fat chocobos and stuff like that in order to like put your stuff away and, you know, do whatever you could with that. When you battled your enemies, just say like if you did not set up your attacks correctly, you would actually be swinging at nothing because the game wasn't smart enough to like attack something that was still alive. You would swing into the square that you had selected and you could be wasting your turn. So it was very difficult to make it through those first initial games in that manner. 3 is obviously one that never made it to the US for a while. So a lot of people don't have a lot of love for this game. They know of the Onion Knights, and I mean, if we look at it, the Crystal Tower is just one of those like iconic dungeons from the Final Fantasy franchise. Obviously, they utilize it in Final Fantasy XIV, which is tremendous that it even appeared in there. So, you know, there's a lot of throwback and call-outs to the older games when we go into the entire franchise as itself. And I really do appreciate everything that they've done with these games. Now, what I say about these games being the worst of the 16-game history or mainline history is just because of like how outdated like this style of turn-by-turn really is. I think that there's a proper way to do the turn-by-turn, and obviously it took a lot of years to figure out. Like Final Fantasy X, for example, like that turn-by-turn system is amazing, right? It's utilized in a bunch of different other games too, but it was never quite perfected it to the way that 10 made it. I think the closest thing we've gotten ever to it was literally this year with Expedition 33. And that was like one of the most amazing uses of the command style turn-by-turn system that I've ever seen. Also enhancing with, you know, like you have to parry and dodge and stuff like that, which is very critical. But I mean, when we take it to Final Fantasy, those games, that's not what these games have ever been about. It's all been about curing your status elements, giving status elements, buffing, debuffing, attacking, secret optional bosses and dungeons and stuff like that to get the most amazing, powerful gear. And the biggest one, strategy. That was like, that's the staple That is, if you literally made a table of contents, that is everything that I named off. That is a Final Fantasy game to a T. That is how you play these games. It's just with 1, 2, and 3 that they were so technically defunct that it was like, it was really hard to get into them. And it was for me, it was really hard to kind of replay them because I was like, shit, I wish I would have got them earlier and then did the videos right out the gate. But for me, this is like kind of like a send-off because I don't think I'll ever return to 1, 2, or 3 ever again. At least not the pixel remasters. And that's because I think that the Dawn of Soul versions for 1 and 2 are the definitive best versions of the game just because of how much content you get with that. And the fact that they change it up to where like you don't get like the Dungeons and Dragons type of spell charges, you actually get MP. With 2, you get the extra story with Minwu, Cid, Joseph, and Ricard as they travel through hell or whatever to kind of fight off the Emperor in that facet. So you guys are doing like kind of a double battle so you can destroy the Emperor for good while Furion and his group are doing their thing above. So it's a really nice, like it's a really, really nice little tale story right there. A lot of hours can be poured into it to kind of get everything you want out of those games. 3, the 3D remake is the definitive version of the game by far. It's got the voice acting that you want. It's hard as hell. And you'll be spending hours upon hours trying to accomplish and beat everything that game has to offer. Now, I've done it all off my phone before, so that's pretty cool. And there's a lot of changes actually to it. So like they add like the Mognet and everything like that. So the game is completely different compared to what we just did right here. So definitely 3D remake. I would say for 4, the GBA version is probably the best one. But in terms of like design and giving you more voice acting and stuff like that, it's definitely got to go to the Final Fantasy IV 3D remake as well. But for me personally, I love the GBA version. I just think it's the cleanest version that I've ever seen of the game. And it's just one that kind of just sticks into my mind forever. Like whenever I think about 4, I go to the GBA. And there's nothing wrong with the Pixel Remaster. It's literally just the base version of that game. Like, we'll talk more about it when we get into 4, about like what differences there are between pretty much all these different versions of these games. But I think that from 4 and on, this is when Final Fantasy really started to take off, because now we're going to start getting into the narrative. Now we're going to start talking about stories, as opposed to just like a general idea that they kind of established with the first 3 games. Because the first game was all about Warriors of Light. Unknown destiny, go and destroy chaos. That was pretty much it. Then they found out that they were in a time loop and this and that, and then destroyed it, and then nobody ever recalls their deeds because they basically never existed or whatever, right? 2 had a little bit of a story, but it wasn't like anything very powerful or impactful. It was literally Star Wars. It was, the Emperor was just ravaging and destroying things, and you were just trying to prevent that by being a rebel army, and that was it. Then you travel through a bunch of these different locations. A lot of NPCs didn't really have a whole lot of meaning, but, you did your thing. And then in this game, it was all about, like, it was a very vague story about the sage Noah and, Doga and Uni and Jande inheriting different powers and stuff like that, where Jande felt like he was kind of, he was shafted in a way where he got like the worst of the 3 powers or whatever, and then he turned to darkness and created all of this crap. So he got manipulated by the Cloud of Darkness, and that's why we see that thing as a final boss. But yeah, like on a technical aspect, I think the worst 3 are done finally, and I couldn't be any more happier with that. I'll go ahead and save right here. So this one was actually shorter than 2 in a time aspect, because we did this in 9 hours. So the other one had 11 parts, this one had 10 parts. But now we're going to start getting into the Final Fantasies that actually take a little bit longer to accomplish, because that's when they started giving a lot more juice to these games. Take a look at the gallery while we talk some more. So, yeah. So, nice little title covers there. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, the 3D version will also give you, like, these guys will actually come into the battle and actually fight things for you. Like, they'll only appear once or twice in a battle, and that's it. But these are rough. I'm not gonna lie. These games can be kind of rough at times. I like how they only have like a few of these things. Guts Go was something else. Salamander, that's a cool boss. The Garuda. Kochi. General. Sila's got to be one of like the more cooler boss. I mean, you got like multi-head dog, wolf thing. Obviously Cerberus, right? Can't go wrong with that. That has got to be the craziest design for a chocobo. Shiva, Ramu, Ifrit, Taija, Leviathan, Bahamut. Yeah, and what gives this game a lot of love too is the fact that you can the replayability of this game is bar none one of the best in the franchise, because if you want to set up your own challenge runs, I mean, I think I've seen all sorts of people play like this game in a different way. So I mean, if you want to run like 4 Onion Knights the entire game, you can do that. If you want to run 4 Bards the entire game, well, up to the point where you can get them, you can do that. You can do a lot of different things with this game, and you can win at any level. It does not matter. You set up a proper strategy, and then you can beat this game on any capacity with any party. It's been done before. A lot of people show it. It's a little bit harder, and you have to be kind of leveled to do it, but there are ways of, you know, kind of figuring it out and beating the game on your own challenges if you choose to. Now, I opted for the basic party, right? Because like, if it's the first time player watching these games, first off, I don't suggest that you use the boost like I do. I'm doing it for the video purposes, because I don't want this game to drag on for like 22 hours, because the grinding session can take a lot. And that's probably one of the most like cringe words to use in these games, but yes, in JRPGs you do have to grind. You do have to like fight a lot of battles to get stronger, get money, get experience points, whatever have you. That's what you got to do, you know. And specifically to this one, it's you have to wait turns in order to get job levels to increase. On a normal playthrough, you're going to be increasing your job levels by 1 each time you do that, which really, really sucks. So the pacing of this game is pretty terrible when it comes to that. The traditional level system isn't bad because you just get experience points and you go with it, but what matters most is your job level, because that affects how many hits, how much damage you do with the spell, and so on and so forth. And I mean, we saw, like, I was a high level 99 job level across the board with like 55 actual leveled characters, and we still nearly got one-shotted by the two-headed dragon. So that was actually the first time that I had a character fall in battle too in this game. So, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where, imagine if you didn't and you came in there at level 40, you're going to get wiped. That's just how it goes. So yeah. I am proud to say that 1, 2, and 3 are done. Now, as we go into the future, the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 all use the action time battle system with the ATB. So basically what we're going to see is like a little bar that scrolls across the names, and then as soon as that bar hits its final point, your character is going to have a chance to be able to move and do a certain action. The only thing that starts to drive this crazy is the fact that the enemies are also on an ATB, so you can't just sit there. Technically, you can if you put on the wait system, but you, for the most part, the enemies are always on a constant move while you have to be very quick with your decisions. So that's when Final Fantasy really started to take off, is like when they started to put the pressure on us. Because 1, 2, and 3 were obviously just stand there, hit, or take the hit. And then you selected your action and you hoped that whatever character you had healing you would go last, kind of, and be able to heal all your damage. Otherwise, you would run into the situation where you saw that like the Ahriman had 2 moves and almost wiped my entire party. And then the mage decided to heal at the end of the damage turn. And then as soon as the next turn started, the Devout decided to heal again, and nothing had even happened to us. So that's why they went away from this style of system, because it didn't work, right? You can't. It's a roll of the dice. You can't really predict when that move is going to come. Certain classes are faster than others, yes, but at the same time, it's like you don't want to make them too slow for balance purposes, because sometimes the Devout isn't always going to be used just to heal. You do want to attack with it, or you do want to use like haste or your reflect spells or whatever have you, and that's basically how you want to set yourself up. So again, it was one of those things where they took the RNG part out of it, kind of, and put it more into our hands about being faster. So now you have to make quick, on-demand decisions, decide what you want to do in each battle before you do it, and as you like go through the dungeons, you're going to get the same enemies over and over again usually. So then you know how to be able to take care of those enemies as you progress through the maps and do the battles or whatever have you. This version of Final Fantasy IV that's coming up with the Pixel Remaster is honestly very easy, because it reverts back to just a traditional level system, so it has nothing to do with your job level or anything. Like, everybody's going to have an associated job, per se, but it's literally their character, right? So like our first character, Cecil, is going to be, a Dark Knight, and then we're going to be traveling with a Dragoon. Eventually we're going to meet a Summoner, we're going to have a White Mage, we're going to have a Monk, and they literally just stay that the entire game. You can't change them, that's just their entire persona for the rest of the time. So the real way to beat 4 is just to basically grind it out and get to a high enough level to where you feel comfortable that you're outpacing the damage that's given to you when you encounter the final dungeon, the final bosses, and stuff like that. So 4 is just, it's really beautiful too, because the story element, the narrative starts to take place, and we become more interconnected with the characters at this time, because now we're starting to understand like how these games are going to start being ran. And the overall like feel of them, the ATV system being introduced for the first time, it's just overall, man, it's just one of those things that set the ground for what came way in the future, and now we kind of see where we're at right now. With me being done with 1, 2, 3, and 8 on the channel right now, we do have a 16 in progress, but I stopped at Titan Lost just to get progress in that game. I'm not sure if I might restart it myself just to kind of get the feel for the buttons again, because I definitely don't remember how to play it, unless I do it constantly. But I'd rather not, because it's just such a long quest that you have to do the side questing and all that. So I kind of wanted to get some progress on that before I just have like this long ass play session once again, just to do everything that there is to do in that game. So that's why that one stopped when it did. But other than that, closing thoughts on 1, 2, and 3 is that, you know, in each of their own way, they paved the way for us for the future. They're not the best Final Fantasy games by far. You know, I do think that a lot of them are iconic in their own right, but they're obviously the lesser known, and a lot of people don't run them because it's just not entertaining, right? So these videos probably will never do well. I don't expect them to. I don't ever expect any of these videos to do well because that's not what this channel's even been about. It's more of a time capsule for myself so that when I go back like 10, 20 years in the future and be like, damn, I really love playing these games, but, you know, it's time to move on. It's like, I've done it enough times. There's really no need to do it anymore. And then I have something that's kind of forever set there until they destroy YouTube. But other than that, you know, what can you do? But I had a blast. I'm having a real fun time with this. I understand that the boost probably don't help the viewership or whatever, because you're gonna say like, oh, it's cheating. And yeah, I mean, of course it is. It's a boost. But at the same time, like I said, I have so many projects. Like it's unreal how many projects we have to do, and with such short time, you know, I'm bouncing between all these different games, trying to get videos up. I completely stopped Black Myth Wukong. Just, you know, and I just picked that game up. I've been waiting for a sale forever, and I started one video and haven't played it since. So, you know, because we have the Ninja Gaiden 2 Black series going, I still have to do 3, 4 when it comes out. So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot still happening here. When this year alone, I mean, we got through like a bunch of Resident Evils. We got through the Doom stuff. Like, it's been a great year for the channel so far. And I'm hoping like Expedition 33 goes on a little bit better of a sale, because obviously I have it on Xbox, but I don't stream off Xbox. They just make it really difficult to do stuff like that. Whereas this one's just like a click of a button, make videos, go into Share Factory, and then just kind of do it from there. So yeah. That's all I really got for that. Next up is going to be the Final Fantasy IV. In between the break, though, I might do a little bit more videos on Ninja Gaiden just to kind of get that going again. And we'll see. Yeah, but Expedition 33, I really do want to drop in price because I think that game deserves to be on here. And I really want to put it on here because I have not done everything on the Xbox version yet. Just because I was like, this game is amazing. Let me save it for an actual platinum run. That's just kind of where my mind's at with that right now. And then, stapling the future once again for Final Fantasy. Like I said, a little bit of a break, just kind of do these little action games in between. And then 4 will be up next. Kind of a long one, not too bad. 5, about the same length as 4. 6 is pretty heavy. That one's going to be a minute, especially since I have to do everything in that game to begin with, because I think I stopped somewhere like before you get Sabine. So before you get Sabine, that's where I'm at. And then I just stopped playing that one for good. And then obviously once we hit 7 is going to be, holy shit, it's going to be a ride. Because I want to do 7 the OG version. Obviously we got to do the OG version. But then it becomes a question about, like, how am I going to handle the remake and rebirth? Because those are fucking heavy games. Oh my god. Those are probably going to be live streamed because there's no way I can make 40, 50-minute videos and make, like, a whole series of over 150, 200 videos, because that's basically what it's going to take to cover some of those games. Elden Ring is my longest by far, and I didn't even do like a full Elden Ring thing. I did my very first Elden Ring one. I showcased just the major dungeons and all that kind of stuff, the big boss fights, pretty much all the highlight points of that game. And then in the second run, I did a little bit of a live stream so we could see the open world and stuff like that, and just kind of how I traverse the map. But those take a lot out of you. Like I was like falling asleep in between the episodes because it's just so hard, right? I mean, you got obviously I'm a dad, so I got, you know, my kids, I got work. I don't get a lot of time to do these kinds of things, so yeah, it's pretty painful. 8's been done. I usually do a replay of that game every year though, just because it is my favorite of the franchise. But I'm not gonna do it again for video wise, just because we've already done it. And it's been sitting there. It's my first ever playlist on the channel. 9 is gonna happen. But all those games are pretty much gonna be played with a boost. Now, when we get to 10 though, 10 does not have a boost. You actually have to play that one legit on at least PlayStation. So once we get to that, that's where the franchise content is probably going to take a real dip, like a slow down dip, because 10's going to require a lot of time. I don't think it'll be 100% playthrough, but knowing me, I'm going to probably make it one. I just don't look forward to the grind session of getting, you know, the sphere grid maxed out and taking on the dark aeons and stuff like that, but that's what people like to see. So I don't know. I'm gonna see where I'm at with that one, because I've done that like 4 different times, and doing all that. And anyone who's played 10 knows that the monster arena hunts are miserable, and the game can be well over 200 plus hours. You know, I love 10 a lot, but it's very time consuming and very hard to do. What else? 12 is honestly my most, like, I've only played it once, so played it once, beat it once, but I don't really know a lot about it, so I'll have to learn that one again. 13 is obviously unavailable on PlayStation, so it'd be interesting to see how that one gets done. 14 is just an MMO, like nothing content-wise I can really put out there. 15 is pretty heavy. Nice little cool story with the boys, but it's going to be a live stream for sure, because it's just an open world map, pretty big game. 16 is obviously what we've been doing. So yeah, the future is mapped out pretty well. I think like the first 6 will be the easiest by far to make videos of, because you can kind of pace yourself well, and they're not really like mega 40, 50 hour games. You know, they weren't never meant to be something like that. Whereas these future Final Fantasy games can go on forever. Especially when you start trying to tackle endgame content, it gets kind of out of hand. But yeah, it's nice to talk about the future. So anyway, 1, 2, and 3 are done. Sad to see it, but it's time to move on from them. Next up is 4, and the story of Cecil. That game is so fucking good. The music, the story, like, it's going to be one that we have to pay attention to, and I'll probably actually keep like the text boxes up. I probably won't do any reading myself, but I'll let it sit up there for a little bit longer so the story can actually be read and listened to, because I think 4 is one of those A tier, like, really nice little touches, you know. It's not without its faults for sure, but it's definitely one of the better Final Fantasy games out there. So, anyways, that is it. Thanks for watching, and then I'll see you in whatever game I choose next.